Now we will see database recovery after the start of transaction, but before the transaction commits, several changes may be made in a database, which is nothing but a starting of the transaction. For example, here one example I have taken for the transaction. Here we are transferring from A's to B's account some 500 rupees we are transferring. So here read A is equal to A minus 500. A is sending B to 500 rupees. So from A's account 500 rupees are debited. Write A. Next read B. B is equal to B plus 500. This 500 should be credited into the B's account. So B plus 500, write B. After the execution of this transaction, commit. So here after the start of transaction but before the transaction commits. So here beginning to end of the transaction there may be several changes made in a database state. There are several changes made in the database state. The database during such a state is in an inconsistent state. Sometimes during the failures the database may goes to inconsistent state also. Okay, inconsistent means not correct. What happens when a failure occurs at this stage? During this execution of transaction, in case failure occurs, what will happen? That we will see now. Okay, so here what should be done? If during the transaction if any failure occurs, the database recovery should be done. That is nothing but a database recovery. For example, this is the transaction. During this transaction, in this case, here some failure is occurred, which is nothing but a from A's account 500 rupees is debited, but this 500 rupees is not credited into the A's account. Then you can say that now database is in inconsistent state. To overcome this problem, database should be recovered. So here A transaction transfers 500 from A's account to B's account. After debited money, A's account failure is happened. It makes the database is inconsistent. If you want to write the notes, you please write the notes. Next one, data recovery. Restoring the database to its correct state in the event of failure at the time of transaction or after the end of the process. So here restoring the database to its correct state should be done after the failure is occurred, which is nothing but a from A's account 500 is debited but it is not credited into B means again that 500 rupees should be credited into the A's account. Okay, even though failure occurs, the database should be in the correct state. That is nothing but a recovery. So here recovery techniques are used to bring the database inconsistent state into a consistent state. Okay, consistent means correct, inconsistent means not correct. Next one, if a transaction completes normally and commit, then all the changes made by the transaction on the database are permanently registered in the database. They should not last, which is nothing but if the transaction is completed all its operation normally and committed means whatever the changes made in the database that should be done permanently. The value should not be lost. Next one, but if the transaction does not complete normally and terminates abnormally, then all the changes made by it should be discarded, which is nothing but if the transaction does not complete normally, which is nothing but a failure is occurred at some operation and it is terminated abnormally. If the transaction is terminated abnormally, then whatever the changes made that will be discarded. For example, here some changes are made. Okay, here transaction is failure abnormally, then whatever the changes made that should be rolled back. Okay, next here Abnormal termination we are telling. What is abnormally means? Abnormal termination of a transaction may be due to the several reasons. Sometimes we will also do after enter during some transaction, online transactions, after pressing OTP also don't press refresh button, they will tell. But if we don't want to complete the transaction, we will sometimes press. So here that is nothing but a abnormal termination, you can say. So here user may decide to abort the transaction issued by him or her. That is nothing but abnormal. There might be a deadlock in the system. Sometimes there may be a deadlock. Due to the deadlock also abnormally the transaction will be terminated. There might be a system failure. Maybe the system failure also abnormal termination occurs. So here to fail the transaction, there are some failures are there. Some of the failures we will see: software failure, hardware failure, external failure, system failure. Software failure means failures may include the failures related to software. Software failures may be based on operating system, dbms software, application program, virus, and so on. Due to this software failure also transaction may fail. Hardware failure may include memory errors, disk crashes, bad disk sectors, disk full, failure of hardware chips, and so on. So sometimes hardware failure may occur due to this. Next one, system failure. System failure means system crashes due to software failure or hardware failure. System failure means it may be due to hardware or software. Next one, external failure. External failure may include like fire, earthquakes, floods, and so on, called as external failure. Note, compared to all the failures, fortunately recover from software failure is much quicker. And failure, these are the types of failures we have seen. How to control this failure methods means, or you can call it as a recovery techniques. All this we will see in the next video. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel. If you want to write notes, please pause and write the notes and comment me.